Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What everyday household items are actually way more dangerous than we give them credit for? Throw rugs in senior citizens' houses. Literal death traps. They trip on that tiny little edge of carpet or it slides on the floor and now you have an old person with a broken hip and a death sentence. Edit. Just for clarification, I meant their personal houses or homes or any senior living place. Not nursing homes. But really it's a problem with any potential tripping hazard. That tiny little threshold ledge between rooms? Yet that too. Do your elders a solid and try to trip-proof their living spaces. Having worked in geriatrics for a few years now, this comment is literally too true. Hip fractures have a very high mortality rate associated with them. Protect your elders. Zippers actually cause a lot of injuries. So does frozen food. The injuries occur when people try to separate frozen items. Nothing more uncomfortable than watching someone trying to separate frozen burger patties with their 8+ chef's knife. My sil broke her foot by dropping a frozen ham on it. The ER didn't believe her and called the police on my brother because he made some joke about, well, what do you think happened? I pushed her down the stairs. He then had to spend several hours trying to prove they didn't even have stairs. A mandoline slicer. Those things slice over 9,000 fingers every year. Yikes. The mandoline slicer is a demon who will serve the kitchen faithfully, but it demands a blood sacrifice. There's a reason I'm not allowed to use the mandoline at work. Irons. Did I unplug it? Do I turn my car around and head back home to check? You know, I once heard an interesting story about a woman who suffered from crippling OCD. She had to quit her job because she was always terribly paranoid about the iron being on. She suffered for about 10 years before she went to a therapist who suggested that she simply take the iron with her when she goes out. It totally worked and she was able to get a stable job after that. Oh, this is my iron. Clamshell packaging. That shit is designed to butcher and maim. Space heaters. It's good to be warm and on the whole they're super effective. But they can sure go wrong. My grandmother is paranoid AF about even using them due to her mother dying in a house fire caused by an unattended space heater. Space heaters made in the last 15 years are actually really safe with redundant safety features that cannot fail. What makes them unsafe are people using cheap extension cords or power strips that aren't rated to take that kind of power load. The resistance is too high, causing the cords or the internal to overheat and cause a fire. You should only be plugging them directly into the wall outlet or be using a heavy-duty extension cord intended to be used in a workshop. Gummy vitamins. I'm an adult and have trouble limiting myself to less than 20. This thread is harmful to the mental health of the cautious individual. Mental health of the cautious individual. Just got THR name to the self-help book I haven't been writing. Apparently ladders are surprisingly dangerous. You'd think it would be easy to avoid falling off one. But I've heard of it happening more than I expected. You also really don't need that high of a fall to badly hurt yourself. I'm not afraid of heights, but ladders. Ladders are scary. Heights aren't dangerous when they're up there alone. But with a ladder they can come down and get you. Dull knives. Wish this were more well known. A sharp knife cuts where you intend and requires less force. A dull knife requires more force and makes mishaps far worse. I used to teach a twice-yearly knife safety course for Cub Scouts and the number of parents that tried to argue about this was mind-blowingly high. Wet tile floors. Lots of people die. Yep. Hotel I work at had a man slip in the bathroom and pass a few years ago. They called his wife, who they thought was staying with him, only to find out he was having an affair. Edit. Just want to clarify. The mistress had gone out for whatever reason, so he was alone when he slipped. A double slam. Water and bathroom floors. More people are killed or injured in accidents in bathrooms than most people realize. Or even just tub showers without non-slip mats to stand on. Or elderly people slipping getting out of a tub. Grippy mats and securely mounted handholds are important. People, our bathrooms are trying to maim us. Some people are worried about the great robot uprising. I'm more worried about robots partnering with bathrooms. We'd all be dead inside a week. Stairs. People fall up them or down them a lot. Also lint catchers for your dryer. Causes household fires a lot. Only if you don't clean out the lint after every use. If you camp a lot, save the dry lint. Makes a great fire starter for your campfire. Cheese grater. You ever accidentally have your hand slide down the grate? It just shreds your skin. Never called by its negative name. Sponge ruiner. Any corner. The corner of a table or the corner of a cabinet door. Never leave those doors open. It takes one wrong step to lose an eye. Or one bad fall. That's why I live in a corner-free house. Do you live in an igloo? No. He lives on his Oval Office. Tylenol. The max daily dose of acetaminophen is 4 grams. That's 8. Extra strength 500 milligrams tablets. Exceeding that dose can cause your liver to, well, stop. And you die. Also do not take Tylenol before bed if you are drunk. Alcohol taxes the lives. Tylenol taxes the liver. Don't double down on that damage. As a nursing student I can tell you not enough people understand this. Everything is dangerous if you're clumsy. Well, I almost died from walking barefoot on a yard that had damp killer pellets spread on it when it was a little wet. It started to shut my nervous system down and I just collapsed. I remember tasting metal and then fading out. So my answer is any killer/pesticide. Thank God it was me and not one of my daughters. Undiluted weed killers can do this as well. We weren't allowed to play on the grass after my dad sprayed the lawn. It would kill frogs and bugs too. This shit doesn't seem like a good idea to be using if all it does is kill a few weeds. Like using a nuke to trim a tree. Powdered coffee creamer. It's incredibly flammable if it gets into the air. I volunteered at one of those seasonal haunted houses when I was younger. One of the jobs was to be dressed as a druid and to throw coffee creamer on a fire to create a fireball. BRB going to throw handfuls of it around a naked flame. Garage doors. Let the professionals fix it if it breaks. The springs carry a lot of weight. It's perfectly capable of sending you to the hospital if you are doing DIY repairs. My dad was totally degloved, think that's the right word, and his thumb was only attached by a shred of something trying to fix a garage door. It happened when I was really young so I'm not 100% with the details. After that he stopped working construction and went to college so he never had to fix one again. Degloved. This word still gives me shivers every time I read it. Garage door springs. Coiled up death machines just waiting for their moment. Sent my dad to the hospital once. 250 stitches. Lost 2 pints of blood and a lot of the strength in his hand. I used to work on garage doors back in the day and we would take down huge springs on doors that were big enough for giant tractors to go through. Can verify that unwinding those monster springs is a ducking terrifying thing. Bleach. It's poisonous. It can blind you if it gets in your eyes. And it makes lots of smoke if mixed with brake fluid. When I was in high school, a girl a grade below me committed suicide by drinking a good amount of bleach and then hanging herself in her bathroom. I remember someone saying that drinking bleach is supposed to numb your throat. That whole story just has been stuck in the back of my head for years and I rarely use bleach. I remember someone saying that drinking bleach is supposed to numb your throat. There was a Reddit thread literally a couple days ago where folks were discussing the worst ways to die. And drinking bleach was near the top. Basically, you burn little holes in your esophagus. Then when your body instinctively attempts to make you vomit, the bleach will now leak out of your burnt esophagus and into your lung cavities for more internal damage fun. Meanwhile you get to feel every moment of it. It's a horrible way to go. Hairspray and any spray that can be used as an impromptu flamethrower in general. My family still reminds me of the dreaded days that ensued after I showed my little cousin this cool new trick. My dad learned this trick while I was on a Boy Scout camping trip from some of the more pyro-leaning scouts. Fast forward several years and I'm in college. There's a wasp nest hanging from the carport light fixture. He remembers the spray can flamethrower. What does he reach for? Engine starter fluid. Basically pressurized ether. There were concentric scorch rings around the light fixture, the largest having about a 6-foot radius from the fireball. The wasp nest was gone, as was the hair on his arm. Still don't know how he didn't burn that part of the house down. Alexa, please order me a lighter, a case of engine starter fluid, and a case of spray on hair. Refrigerators. They won't kill you as long as you're using them normally. But if your fridge breaks down and you're foolish enough to think, well, I know a bit about electronics, maybe I can fix it. There's about 4 different ways it can kill you. The only ones I can remember off the top of my head is that the cooling element can rupture, and the capacitors can hold a lethal charge for months after it's been unplugged. Apparently guitar amps also have the same issue with capacitors. You need specialized equipment for discharging capacitors to safely repair either of these appliances. Edit. Turns out the specialized equipment is only specialized if you want it to be. See replies. You need specialized equipment for discharging capacitors to safely repair either of these appliances. It's called a plastic handle screwdriver. I can vouch it's a much better option than using your hand. Had a former co-worker accidentally make contact on the back of his hand with the large capacitor in our 100A induction machine. On the bright side, the exit wound was instantly cauterized. I have toilet paper stand and the base weighs like 20 pounds. It's a deadly mace. It's just an extra security measure. What if someone breaks in while they're on the john? Toothpicks. Sharp enough to pierce skin. Fragile enough to break off and get stuck. And being wood and porous, they can harbor all sorts of nasty stuff that can cause some nasty infections. And it's entirely possible to not notice you've swallowed one until it's poking through your guts and you're leaking raw poo into your abdominal cavity. Regarding the replies concerning raw poo, I mean the leaky liquidy stuff before the majority of the water is reabsorbed further along in the intestine. On Halloween of my 16th year, I impaled the ball of my foot with a toothpick. My friend was having a Halloween party, so the night before I had made a cake. Used a toothpick to test if done. Then scooped up all the garbage from the counter and dumped it in the trash. The toothpick took a detour to the rug beside the trash. Next morning I'd just gotten up and was in the kitchen talking to my mother. She told me for the millionth time in my life to go put on slippers because I was shivering. I complied to the request. Turn and take 2 shuffling steps. Then just stopped. It didn't really hurt. It felt like something just kind of tapped the bottom of my foot very hard. I lifted up my foot to look and there it was. 3/4 of the way in. It was a very clean entry. No blood at all. The tip that was sticking out was a little bent and splintered. We were both just kind of in shock. My mom helped me hop to the living room chair, where I sat holding my foot in a squeeze, tourniquet style. The weather was on. So of course we sat there for 5 minutes watching that before she suggested maybe we should try to get it out. She grabbed a pair of pliers, gently took the tip of the toothpick end tip, and yanked. The tip broke off. I have quite the Novocaine tolerance. But of course the doctors didn't think a teenage girl knew best about that. Several foot jerks from the scalpel digging in my foot fixed that, also landing me with a bigger scar. He kept having to get smaller and smaller scalpels. Every 30 seconds he would ask for a higher gauge scalpel. I've never heard the word scalpel so many times in my life. And to make it all the more fun, it was a very slow morning at the hospital. Small town, so at least 5 other docs and nurses are milling around for the entertainment. Anyhow, it finally came out. All nice, a goopy red. I wish I'd have thought to ask to keep it. He packed the wound and wrapped it up and I had to wear my father's slipper and crutches to the Halloween party. Cake was good though. I don't think I've ever been less comfortable reading something on the internet. Outlets. There's so much power in those enticing little slots. Outlets are basically high-risk slot machines. Daddy needs a new pair of boots. According to the gnawing voice in the back of my head, it's the garbage disposal which calls me like a siren to shove my grubby little fingers into it every time I turn it on. But I resist the allure. Serious answer. Refrigerators. I think they crush a bunch of people every year when someone tries to move them unassisted. Edit. In hindsight I should have thrown a Gomjabar joke somewhere in here. Sorry Reddit. My B. I was quite appeased when I saw Hayden do it in the show Heroes. Not that I was happy she got her hands gnawed up. Just that I got a chance to see someone do it, so it took the pressure off me doing the same. D. Hayden do it in the show Heroes. It's weird to call her Hayden in the show. Her name was the cheerleader. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.